Hey, it's Cassie here. So, imagine this. Your own family selling your $725,000 engagement ring for your sister's healing trip to Bali? Sounds unreal, right? But that's exactly what happened to me. And the worst part? It wasn't just about the ring. It was about the lies, the betrayal, and the control they tried to keep over me. How could they do this to me? But what do you do when your family takes everything from you and expects you to stay silent? Have you ever felt like your own family has let you down or manipulated you for their own gain? How did you handle it? Drop a comment below. I'd really love to hear your thoughts on this. Where are you watching from? I'm curious to know who's with me in this journey. The sound of my phone buzzing on the coffee table pierced the silence, but I was too exhausted to pick it up. It was a Sunday morning, and my fingers lingered on the edge of my coffee cup. I had no idea how the day would unfold. What I didn't know, what no one had bothered to tell me, was that it would mark the end of the family I thought I knew. I didn't flinch when I saw my sister's name pop up on the screen. She was probably just checking in or calling to give me the latest update on her healing trip to Bali, something she'd been flaunting all over social media. But as the buzz continued, a knot began to form in my stomach. My hands shook slightly when I swiped the screen to see an unexpected notification. A video. From Daphne. A short clip. Nothing that would make sense, but something felt off. I opened it. There she was. Daphne. And beside her, our mother, Barbara. The video wasn't shaky, not like you'd expect from a hidden recording. It was planned. They were in the kitchen, speaking in low voices, but I heard every word clear as day. "We can't keep letting her control the situation, Barbara," Daphne said. Her voice was laced with something I couldn't place. "She'll never know. The ring. It's the only way to get the money for Bali, to keep up appearances." My heart sank. My engagement ring, the one I'd been given in front of everyone at a family dinner just a few months ago, the one my fiancé, Everett, had promised would symbolize forever, it was gone. I didn't know what I was feeling. Anger? Confusion? But mostly, it was the betrayal that stung the deepest. My family had taken the most significant symbol of my commitment to someone I loved. And for what? To fund Daphne's vanity trip? For the sake of their own selfish desires? I couldn't breathe for a moment, trying to process what I'd just heard. A few seconds into the video, Barbara nodded, too casually. "It's fine, darling. She'll never miss it. We'll just say it got lost, and we'll cover it with something else. She's been so distracted, she won't notice." My mother, I couldn't fathom it, betrayed by the people I trusted the most. The video ended, and I sat there, staring at the blank screen of my phone. The room around me felt smaller, suffocating. The quiet was deafening. I didn't know what to do or what to feel. All I could think about was how Daphne, my own sister, had just stolen everything I held dear. And yet, I wasn't surprised. She'd always been the favorite, the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. I'd spent so many years living in her shadow, watching her take, watching her lie, and watching my family make excuses for her. I wasn't going to let this slide. I couldn't. I grabbed my coat and headed out to the balcony. It was cold, but I didn't care. The city sprawled out before me, but it felt so distant, so detached. I stood there, gripping the railing, staring at the chaos that had suddenly exploded in my life. After everything I'd been through, I had to make a choice. I couldn't let this be my life anymore. I wouldn't. The phone call with Daphne came the next morning. She sounded too calm, too rehearsed. "I know this must be hard for you, Cassie," she said, the words dripping with fake sympathy. "But you have to understand, it was the only way to help you. Mom and I have always had your back, but you need to trust us." I wasn't about to fall for her lies. Not anymore. "Help me?" I scoffed, my voice low and threatening. "You didn't help me, Daphne. You stole from me. You used me." The silence on the other end was almost deafening. She didn't know how to respond, and I didn't care to let her. "Don't bother calling again," I said, my voice steady, my heart racing. "You've done enough damage." I hung up without waiting for a response, and in that moment, I knew things would never be the same. I'd never look at my family the same way again. This was my wake-up call. This was the moment I decided I wouldn't let them control me anymore. As the day wore on, I began planning. I would take back control. I would make sure they understood that what they had done to me wasn't just a mistake. It was betrayal, and I would make them pay. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how deep this went. My whole life, I had been living in the shadow of my family's needs and desires, but no more. I would fight. I would take back my life, my ring, and my dignity. It had been a few days since my confrontation with Daphne, but the sting of betrayal still lingered. What had begun as a personal betrayal had quickly escalated into a family-wide war, and I wasn't sure where I stood anymore. I wanted to believe that somewhere in all the chaos, my family would come through for me. I wanted to believe they would see the truth. But when I walked into the house that afternoon, I realized that belief was nothing more than a naive fantasy. Richard and Barbara were seated in the living room, their faces cold, unreadable. I took a deep breath before stepping in, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. There was no comfort to be found here. "Cassie," Barbara said, her voice strained but polite. "What brings you here today?" I was taken aback by the way she spoke, so calm, so detached, as if nothing had happened. It was as if I were a stranger in my own family, not someone who had just had everything taken from her. "I came to talk about the ring," I said, my voice steady, but betraying a flicker of the anger I felt. "And about what Daphne did." Richard's eyes narrowed, and Barbara shifted in her seat. Their defensiveness was palpable. "Cassie," Richard began, his tone sharp, "you've got to stop making this into such a big issue. It's just a ring. You're making things worse than they need to be." My heart sank at his words. Just a ring. Was that all it was to them? Something so precious, something tied to my memories, had been stolen, and they were brushing it off like it was a trivial matter. The enormity of their indifference hit me harder than I had anticipated. "Daphne's actions are part of a bigger problem," I replied, struggling to keep my composure. "You can't just let her get away with it." Barbara's eyes flicked toward Richard before she spoke again, this time more forcefully. "You're blowing this out of proportion. It's not just about the ring. We've all made sacrifices for this family, and you're making it seem like Daphne is the villain. You've been so focused on your own pain that you're blind to the bigger picture." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My family, my own parents, were defending Daphne. The person who had robbed me of something irreplaceable. The person who had manipulated my grief for her own gain. "I'm the one who's been wronged here," I said, my voice rising, unable to hold back my frustration any longer. "And yet, you're all siding with her. You're all just standing by while she destroys everything I've worked for." Richard stood up, his frame imposing as he took a step toward me. "You need to stop this, Cassie. We're family. We don't air our dirty laundry like this. You're making yourself the victim, and it's tearing us apart." I froze, stunned by his words. I wasn't the victim, not anymore. I was fighting for what was mine, and here they were, blaming me for everything. For standing up for myself, for refusing to let them walk all over me. "This isn't about dirty laundry, Richard. This is about betrayal," I said, my voice low but fierce. "And it's about time I stopped letting you all decide what's best for me." Before Richard could respond, Barbara spoke again, her words cutting through the air like a blade. "You've caused enough damage. If you want to keep pushing this, then you'll be the one who has to leave. We've made our choice." Their words hit me like a slap in the face. Leave? They were asking me to leave? To walk away from the family that had never supported me, the family that had taken everything from me, and then made me feel guilty for wanting justice? I turned away, my chest tightening as I fought to hold back the tears threatening to spill. They were pushing me out, not because I was wrong, but because I was no longer willing to be a pawn in their game. But just as I reached the door, Richard's voice stopped me. "If you want to go down this path, Cassie," he said, his tone heavy with authority, "you'll be on your own. We won't back you anymore." The words echoed in my mind as I stepped out into the cold afternoon air. The betrayal, the manipulation, it was all too much. But something inside me snapped, and I realized that I wasn't going to let them control me any longer. They could use their money and influence to try and force me into submission, but I wasn't going to fold. Not now, not ever. I walked away, my heart burning with a mix of fury and determination. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I was taking back control, and nothing they said or did could stop me. I couldn't shake the heaviness that had settled in my chest since my conversation with my parents. Their words echoed in my mind, accusing me of being the one who was tearing apart the family. I'd come to them seeking support, but instead, I was met with cold defensiveness, as if I were the one at fault. But it wasn't just the family's betrayal that haunted me. It was the guilt, the deep, suffocating guilt that had been building ever since Everett had passed. One afternoon, a letter arrived. It was from Everett. I didn't expect it, didn't even know his family still kept in touch. But there it was, his handwriting on the envelope, a relic from a time when life had been simpler, before everything unraveled. I opened it slowly, my hands trembling. The letter was short, but it felt like a weight lifted as I read it. Everett had always been the steady one, the calm presence in my life, and even in death, his words were no different. Cassie, I know things are difficult. You're stronger than you think. Don't let the past control you. The love we shared will always be a part of you, but don't let it keep you from living your life. You have the strength to move on. The tears started to flow, and I let them. Everett was gone, but his love, his message, was still here, reminding me that I didn't have to carry this weight alone. I could move forward. I had to. But just as I was starting to find some semblance of peace, the package arrived from Everett's parents. Inside was the engagement ring, the very symbol of my past with Everett. It was beautiful, but it felt like a curse now, a memory of a love that was tainted by the betrayal of my family. I held it in my hands, turning it over, feeling its cold weight, but this time, it didn't bring me comfort. It felt like a shackle, a reminder of everything I had lost, and everything my family had taken from me. I stared at the ring for a long time, torn. Should I accept it? A part of me wanted to hold on to the piece of Everett, to let the ring be a token of the love we'd shared. But the other part of me knew that keeping it would keep me tied to a past that had been tainted by too much betrayal. I thought about my family. My parents, Richard and Barbara, had taken advantage of my grief, manipulated me, and turned against me when I needed them most. They had used their wealth and influence to control me, to make me feel small, to make me feel like I didn't matter. I clenched the ring tighter. I couldn't let them control me any longer. I couldn't let this symbol of love become something that held me back. With a final defiant breath, I made my decision. I placed the ring back into the box, sealed it, and sent it back to Everett's parents. This was the last piece of my old life, the last tie to my past. I wasn't going to let it hold me hostage anymore. The decision wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right one. My future was in my hands now. I wasn't going to let the weight of family or the past dictate my life anymore. It was time to walk away, completely. And so, with one final decision, I cut the last tie that had kept me tethered to my past. The road ahead would be hard. So much had been lost. But I was ready. I was ready to heal, to move forward, and to reclaim the life I had lost. The evening was set. The gala. A grand event, filled with glitz and glamour. But for me, it was something else entirely. It was my battlefield, a place where I would confront my family, in front of everyone. I couldn't stand the thought of their lies being swept under the rug anymore. The truth had to come out, and it would be at the expense of their carefully crafted image. Tonight, they would see who I really was, and I would see who they really were. I walked into the venue, feeling the eyes of the guests on me. The lights were bright, the music soft, and yet, every step I took felt like an eternity. But inside, I was calm, more than calm. I was ready. My heart beat steadily in my chest as I made my way to the front. The truth was going to be heard, loud and clear. No more secrets. No more lies. I didn't hesitate when the moment came. The crowd fell into a hush as I stood there, all eyes on me. I clicked the remote in my hand, and the screen behind me flickered to life. The video played, the words and faces now trapped in a moment of complete transparency. Daphne, my sister, the one I had trusted, sitting there in front of the camera, confessing, admitting with cold indifference that she had sold my engagement ring, the one worth $725,000, the one I had cherished, hoping it would symbolize something beyond material value. And there she was, smugly talking about it as if it were nothing more than a trinket. I felt the heat of the room rise as the video played on. I stood, unwavering. Daphne's voice echoed through the hall, and I could hear the gasps from the audience. My heart beat a little faster, but I couldn't look away from the screen. I had to, Cassie. I needed it more than you did. It was just a ring. I've been struggling, and you've been holding me back. Her voice taunted from the speakers, clear as day. My stomach turned. But this wasn't just about the ring. It was about everything. The betrayal, the manipulation, the years of silent resentment. She had taken more than just my engagement ring. She had taken my trust, my family's loyalty. The moment the video ended, the room was dead silent. It felt like the air had been sucked out of it. The shock was palpable, and I could feel it radiating off the guests. But my family? They were scrambling. Richard, my father, and Barbara, my mother, both shot daggers at me with their eyes. Daphne stood there, her face pale, eyes wide, but I saw the anger flicker in them. She knew what I had done. "How dare you?" Barbara's voice sliced through the tension, harsh and sharp. "This is your family, Cassie. You want to ruin us over a ring?" Her words hit me, but I didn't flinch. I was done flinching. "No, Mother," I said, my voice steady but loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm ruining you over the truth. You've lied, manipulated, and controlled, and now you're going to face it." Barbara opened her mouth to say something, but Richard quickly grabbed her arm. He was seething now, but there was no way to cover up the truth. The video had sealed their fate. "Cassie, you're going too far. This is not how we handle things in this family," Richard said, his voice cold and clipped. "You've embarrassed us. You've embarrassed yourself." I couldn't believe his nerve. All this time they had gotten away with it, pretending to be the loving, supportive family. Now they were playing the victim. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I wasn't the one who had torn apart this family. They had done that themselves. "You've already ruined me. You ruined everything," I said, the words flowing freely now, no longer holding back. "But I'm done. I'm not your pawn anymore, and I'm not going to let you use me to fix your image." The silence that followed was heavy. I didn't need to say anything else. The damage was done. My family's mask had fallen, and they had nowhere left to hide. As I turned to leave, I caught sight of Daphne, her face twisted in rage. But I didn't care anymore. It wasn't about them. It was about me. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. After the gala, the fallout came quickly. The media was buzzing with the scandal, but I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt exhaustion. The truth had been exposed, but it had cost me more than I had anticipated. The relief was fleeting. In its place, a bitter sadness grew. I had severed the last tie to my family. I had burned the bridge. And as much as I knew I'd made the right decision, the weight of it was almost too much to bear. But there was no turning back now. The truth had been exposed. And for better or worse, it was time to face whatever came next. The letter from Everett had arrived, tucked inside an envelope that felt far too light for its contents. It was strange to think that the simple words written on that page could hold so much weight. It was a letter I wasn't sure I was ready to read, but when I did, I was struck by the sense of calm it brought. Calm in a way that only someone who knew me too well could provide. He had always been my anchor. The words echoed in my mind, urging me to be strong, to face the past that had haunted me for so long. But strength doesn't come easily when the past is wrapped in betrayal. When Everett's letter arrived, I thought maybe it would bring some closure. something to help me piece myself together again. Instead, it pushed me to confront something I hadn't expected, the ugly reality of my own family. It wasn't long after reading the letter that the rest of the truth began to unravel. I had suspected it for a while, but now it was undeniable. Richard and Barbara had been conspiring with Daphne all along. They hadn't just taken my engagement ring. No, it was more than that. They had orchestrated this whole thing, stripping me of my independence and using me as a pawn to further their own selfish goals. The ring wasn't the end of it. It was just a small part of the control they had been exerting over me for years. I remember standing there in the living room, holding the letter in my hands, the words of Everett fading into the background as the realization hit me. My family had never been the safe haven I thought it was. It had always been a facade. The shock was immediate, followed by a wave of anger that was almost unbearable. How had I let them manipulate me like this? How had I allowed myself to be so blind to the truth? I confronted Richard and Barbara that same night. The air was thick with tension, every word laced with venom. I had to know, had to hear it from their mouths. The betrayal had been too much to ignore. "You've been lying to me, all of you. How could you?" I demanded, my voice sharp and cold. Barbara, ever the calm one, was the first to speak. "Cassie, it's not what you think. We did this for you. We thought it was the best thing for the family." "Best thing for the family?" I echoed, incredulous. "Selling my engagement ring and tearing apart my life is your idea of what's best for me?" Richard stepped in, his face twisted in defensive anger. "You don't understand, Cassie. We've been trying to protect you. You're just too blinded by your own pride to see it." The words hit me like a slap to the face. Protect me? They had used me. They had orchestrated my downfall for their own gain, all while pretending to be the ones who had my best interests at heart. The lies, the manipulation, it all made sense now. "You've destroyed me," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "You've stripped me of everything. And for what? Power? Control?" Barbara looked at me, her expression unreadable. "We did what we had to do. We did it to protect the family legacy." "Your legacy?" I laughed bitterly, the sound harsh and hollow. "This isn't about legacy. This is about you two wanting to keep control of everything. You sold my ring. You sold me." The truth hit me hard, deeper than I expected. My parents weren't the pillars of support I had thought they were. They were just as selfish and corrupt as the people they tried to convince me to be. Their love wasn't unconditional. It had always come with strings attached. The anger inside me surged as I took a step back, breathing heavily. "I'm done with you. I'm done with this family." Richard's face hardened, and Barbara's eyes flashed with something close to disdain. "You'll regret this, Cassie. You can't just walk away from your family." I didn't flinch. "Watch me." As I turned to leave, my heart pounded in my chest. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but something inside me had shifted. I had taken the first step toward reclaiming my life, and there was no turning back now. The truth had shattered everything, but it had also set me free, and I was ready to face whatever came next. Alone, but finally free. When Daphne walked into the room, her face was the picture of remorse. Her eyes were downcast, her lips trembling slightly as she stepped toward me. For a moment, I almost believed the apology she was about to offer. She opened her mouth, her voice cracking as she spoke. "Cassie, I'm so sorry for everything I've done. I never meant to hurt you. Please, can we start over?" I couldn't help but scoff. The words hung in the air, but they felt hollow, empty, like the air had been sucked out of the room. I could see right through her. She wasn't sorry, not at all. She was only apologizing because she had no other choice. The damage to her public image was too great, and now she wanted to play the role of the repentant sister. It was a ploy, nothing more. "You think I'm stupid?" I shot back, my voice sharp, cutting through the silence. "You think I'm going to fall for this act?" Daphne's expression faltered. She looked almost shocked, but I didn't care anymore. I was done pretending I didn't see the truth. I'm not sorry for what I did, she confessed, her words blunt. I did it because I needed to make myself look good again. You were an obstacle to that. The weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. My sister, the person I thought I could trust, was nothing more than a manipulator, using me for her own gain. The sense of betrayal was almost suffocating. But as much as it hurt, there was no turning back now. I could see her for what she truly was, and I wasn't going to let her use me anymore. I took a step back, my hands clenched at my sides. So, all of this, everything you've done, was for you? You never once thought about what this would do to me. She didn't answer right away. She shifted uncomfortably, her gaze darting to the ground. I was just trying to fix things for myself, she mumbled. I couldn't hold back the bitterness any longer. You've destroyed everything for yourself and for me. You're a liar, a fake, and I'm done with you. The words were out before I even had a chance to stop them, but they felt liberating. For the first time in a long time, I didn't care about the consequences. I didn't care about keeping the peace. My family had already destroyed me once, and I wasn't going to let them do it again. You're right, Cassie, Daphne said quietly. I'm a horrible person, but I don't know how to fix it. You don't fix it by playing the victim. You fix it by being honest, for once in your life. Her face twisted, and for a brief moment I thought she might lash out. But then she just stood there, her arms hanging limply at her sides. It was over. The mask had slipped, and there was nothing left to hide behind. I turned to walk away, but she stopped me. Please, she whispered. You're my sister. I don't want to lose you. You've already lost me, I said, my voice low and steady. I'm done. You've taken everything from me, and now I'm taking it all back. I walked out of the room, leaving her standing there, the remnants of her fake apology hanging in the air. As I stepped into the hallway, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. I didn't look back. There was nothing left to say, nothing left to salvage. The confrontation had been necessary, but it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I couldn't believe the audacity. Daphne showed up at my door, looking like she'd just walked off a magazine cover. Her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. But none of that could hide the emptiness in her eyes, or the desperation in her voice when she finally spoke. I'm sorry, Cassie. I've been a terrible sister. I didn't know what I was doing. Please, let's fix this. I stared at her for a long moment, feeling every inch of anger and betrayal flood through me. She wasn't sorry. Not for a second. Her apology was nothing but a desperate attempt to repair the image she had shattered in front of everyone, and I wasn't buying it anymore. You think a few words are going to fix everything? You think I'm just going to forgive you because you said sorry? Because you want to make it all look good for the public? I said, my voice as cold as the distance between us. Her face faltered, but she quickly masked it with a weak smile. I want to make it right. No, you don't, I shot back. You want to fix your public image. You don't care about me or what you did to me. You're only sorry because your lies finally caught up with you. Her smile faded, but instead of walking away, she took a step forward. Please, Cassie, you're my sister. I need you. I didn't flinch. No, Daphne. You need someone to keep cleaning up your messes, and I'm done being that person. Her eyes flashed with frustration, but it was only for a second. It didn't matter anymore. I could see through her, through all the years of manipulation and lies. I'm done, Daphne, I continued, my voice firm. This is the last time you'll ever manipulate me. I'm done being part of this family. You and Mom and Dad can keep pretending everything's okay, but I'm not buying it anymore. You've ruined me for long enough. Daphne opened her mouth as if to say something, but I didn't let her. I wasn't going to let her twist the truth anymore. I turned my back on her and walked toward the door. The finality of my decision hit me all at once. I was leaving. For good. She stood there, frozen, as I stepped out into the hallway. The world felt different now, lighter, more real. I could breathe again. I was free. But it didn't last long. Within the next few days, Richard and Barbara, my parents, made their move. They came with their apologies, too. They said they wanted to make things right, to bring me back into the fold. But it was too little, too late. I had heard enough from them to last a lifetime. "I'm not coming back," I told my father when he showed up at my door, trying to guilt me into returning. "You've had your chance. You've all had your chance, and you blew it." His face reddened, the vein in his neck bulging with anger. "You don't understand, Cassie. You're making a mistake. This is your family, your blood. You can't just walk away from us." "I can," I said, my voice unwavering. "And I am. I'm done with all of you." For a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other. My heart pounded, but it wasn't out of fear anymore. It was out of power. I had taken control. I wasn't afraid anymore. The strength I had been searching for was finally mine. They tried to pressure me more, but I was done listening. They could say whatever they wanted. It didn't matter. I had made up my mind. I was leaving them behind, and for the first time, I felt truly free. The anger, the sadness, the betrayal, it was still there, but now I was ready to face it. The past would always be a part of me, but it didn't have to define me. I was moving on. I was moving forward, on my own terms. The sound of the ocean waves crashing against the shore was a reminder of how far I'd come. It wasn't the first time I'd been at the beach, but this time felt different. The air felt fresher, the sand softer beneath my feet. And for the first time in so long, I was finally breathing. It had been weeks since the fallout with my family, since I had walked away from everything I thought I knew, but the weight I had carried for so long, of guilt, regret, anger, was starting to lift. Every day felt like a small victory. I had started looking for a place of my own. The old apartment where I had lived with my family no longer felt like home. I needed space to breathe, to create, to truly be myself, without the suffocating presence of their manipulations. I opened the letter I had been avoiding for days. It was from Everett's parents. I had been hesitant to read it, unsure if I could handle any more reminders of the life I had lost. But today, I couldn't put it off any longer. The letter was simple. Their words were kind, understanding, and warm. They spoke of the love they had for Everett, the loss they still felt, and how they hoped I would find happiness again, free from the pain of the past. Tears welled up in my eyes, but they were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of release. For the first time, I felt like I could let go of the past and move forward. Everett had always been a part of me, but the weight of that loss had been too much. Now I could honor his memory without being dragged down by it. And then there was the engagement ring, the symbol of everything that had been taken from me. I thought about it, about what it represented. It wasn't just the piece of jewelry, it was everything I had lost. The trust, the security, the future I had imagined. But in the end, it was just a ring, a symbol. And it wasn't worth holding on to when it only dragged me back into a past I no longer wanted. I had made my peace with that. I had let it go. A part of me still wanted to make them pay. Daphne, my parents, their manipulation had left scars on me that wouldn't fade overnight. But I had learned that seeking revenge, holding on to that anger, would only keep me trapped. They had taken enough from me. It was time for me to reclaim my life, to move forward without their shadows hanging over me. The phone buzzed in my pocket, snapping me out of my thoughts. It was a message from an old friend, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. A simple, "How have you been?" was enough to remind me that there was a world beyond the hurt and betrayal I'd been buried in. There was still life to live. I looked out at the horizon, the sun beginning to set, casting a warm glow across the sky. It felt like the world was opening up for me, and I had finally started to walk through the door. I wasn't sure where this new chapter would take me, but I knew it would be mine. I had my life back. I had my freedom. As I looked out over the horizon, knowing this was just the beginning of my new life, I felt a sense of peace wash over me, ready to face whatever came next. As I reflect on my journey, I realize how important it is to reclaim your life when it feels like everything has been taken from you. There comes a moment when you have to break free from toxic influences, even if they're family. It's not about revenge or holding on to the past. It's about finding the strength to move forward and creating a future that's yours. So I ask you, what's holding you back? Is it the past, the opinions of others, or fear of the unknown? Remember, true freedom comes when you stop letting others dictate your worth. Take that first step. Don't let fear stand in the way of your own happiness. If you felt inspired by this journey, if it touched your heart in some way, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're tuning in from or what part of this story resonated with you. If you didn't like this video, I'd appreciate your feedback too. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and join me for more stories like this, because you deserve a life that's entirely your own. Let's continue this journey together. Your best days are ahead of you.